Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances always to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you all for joining today's class by His Holiness Candramauli Swami Maharaj's daily call. I welcome all of you. Today we are going to continue with the Srimad Bhagavatam series of 12th canto. Today we are going to start a new chapter. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances always to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for your time and association for all of us today. I just share my screen and you can take over the class, Maharaj. So we are on chapter 3, the Bhumi Gita. It starts from verse number 1. Thank you, Maharaj.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Rispamani Jayo Jagran Nirparhasati Bhuriyam Ahomam Vijigi Santi Nityor Kridanaka Nirpaha. Translation. Sukadev Goswami said, seeing the kings of this earth busy trying to conquer her, the earth herself laughed. He said, just see how these kings were actually playthings in the hands of death, but desiring to conquer me. Kama Esha Narendranam Mogashar Vidusamapi Yena Upame Kunde Yeti Vishram Vitan Yupaha. Great rulers of men, even those who are learned, meet frustration and failure because of material lust. Driven by lust, these kings place great hope and faith in the dead lump of flesh called the body, even though the material frame is as fleeting as bubbles of foam on water. Purvam nirjitya sadvargam Yeshyamo Rajamandriyanaha Tatra Sanchiva Arapta Arindran Asak Kantaka Evam Kramena Jeshyema Kritivim Sargara Mekalam Vityasa Bandha Vidaya Na Pushyadhyantike Takam. Kings and politicians imagine, first I will conquer my senses and mind, then I will subdue my chief ministers and rid myself of the thorn pricks of my advisors, citizens, friends, and relatives, as well as the keepers of my elephants. In this way I will gradually conquer the entire earth. Because the hearts of these leaders are bound by great expectations, they fail to see death waiting nearby. To satisfy their greed for power, determined politicians, dictators, and military leaders undergo severe austerities and sacrifice with much discipline. Then they lead their great nations in a struggle to control the sea, land, air, and space. Although the politicians and their followers will soon be dead, since birth and death are inevitable in this world, they persist in their frantic struggle for ephemeral glory. This is called the Bhumi Gita, and this is the Mother Earth speaking. Number 5. Samudra Varanam Jidva Mam Vishyadabdim Ojasa Matman Jaya Syatan Mrityu Atma Jaya Phalam. After conquering all the land on my surface, these proud kings forcefully enter the earth to conquer the sea itself. What is the use of their self-control, which is aimed at political exploitation? The actual goal of self-control is spiritual liberation. Yam Prasidyaiva Manavas Tatsutascha Kuru Dava Tata Yatadgatam Yudye Tammam Jaisyat Abudayaha. O best of the Kurus, the earth continued as follows. Although in the past great men and their descendants have left me, departing from this world in the same helpless way they came into it, even today foolish men are trying to conquer me. Matkrita priti putranam bhartranam chapi vigraham jayate asatam rajye mamatam bharachetasam. For the sake of conquering me, materialist persons fight one another. Fathers oppose their sons and brothers fight one another because their hearts are bound to possessing political power. Amai vayam mahi krishnam bhate mudyeta vandinaham vardhanamanam nito grinanti miryante matritam nirpaha. Political leaders challenge one another. All this land is mine. It's not yours, you fool. Thus they attack one another and die. This verse describes with brilliant clarity the military political mentality that provides innumerable conflicts in the world. For example, as we prepared this translation of Srimad Bhagavatam, British and Argentine military forces are bitterly fighting over the tiny Balkan islands. The fact is that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all land. Of course, even in a God-conscious world, political boundaries exist. But in such a God-conscious atmosphere, political tensions are greatly eased and all of the lands welcome each other and respect each other's right to live in peace. Om Gyan Timidandasya Gena Jana Salakaya. Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swam Padantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare. So we are hearing from Mother Earth, Bhumi Devi. She is one of the 7 mothers. We have 7 mothers. We have our real mother. She is called Mother. We have the earth, as we see here, she is Bhumi Devi. Then you have the wife of the Brahmana, is also known as Mother. The wife of the political leader at the time is also known as Mother. The nurse, in Vedic culture, usually when children are born, there is a wet nurse in order to assist in the birth. She is also known as Mother. And you have Mother Cow. She is also Mother. All of these mothers are worshipful. So here we're hearing from the mother that we live on. Why is she called Mother? Because she provides everything as a mother provides. She provides the food in the form of agriculture, fruit trees. She gives us air, which we need to breathe, water, which we need for living and for cleansing. And she also gives us trees, which we use to make houses so we can live. Her mother is there. Now she's complaining about what some of her children are doing. In the name of political conquest, they uselessly fight over pieces of the earth. And many of them die in the fighting. And of course, it mentions that when you're dying, when you're fighting and you're dying, the last thing you see before you die is the enemy that killed you. Then, because of that impression in the mind, in your next birth, you take birth in the country of your enemy. So people are fighting over different land, but the land belongs to God. The land is Mother Nature, as Krishna is Father. Mother Earth is Mother. And so Father gives the direction and Mother gives the nourishment, as we see in the family also. So this is, and we see here that kings, political leaders, and others who take power become intoxicated by the idea of power and want to expand their rule everywhere. We have the example of the United States of America, which, if you study the history, you'll find it has gone into practically every other country in the world in order to make its influence felt by exploiting the resources there or controlling the local governments become favorable to the country. So we had the Roman Empire, Carthaginian Empire. There was, what other empires did we have on Earth? Big empires. Now we have the American Empire. We had the British Empire too. The British used to control practically many countries around the world. Now they're relegated to a little tiny island, which all they can do is produce potatoes. That's all. Prabhupada said that the British Museum is simply a collection of all the things they stole from other countries. So this is, this idea of conquest, conquer, but who's conquering what? All these people have to leave the area they conquer. We had Napoleon and Hitler. So many of these self-styled conquerors. We had Alexander the Great. We had Attila the Hun. So many. They just come and they go. And the earth remains here. But while they're here, they cause so much disturbance to the population. Nobody can have peace because all of these conquerors simply want to expand their empire. They create useless wars and engage the citizens in war over some natural resources or some land acquisition. Even today, if you study around the world, there's wars going on in so many places. Pakistan and India. India is also fighting with Chinese over a useless piece of land today. And there's wars in Africa. Then you have, of course, the Ukraine war. And so you see these conquerors or the leaders, they exploit the people. They want to exploit the resources so they can be powerful. This idea of power is a great form of sense gratification. It's even more greater than sex life because people enjoy sex life in certain ways, which is very limited in terms of its enjoyment. But this prestige of being a leader and having power and conquest and control intoxicates these leaders in such a way that the more they get, the more they want. It's so powerful, this control principle, because the living entity falls to the material world because it wants to be independent of the Lord and control so they can enjoy separately from the Lord. Those two principles, control and enjoyment, are inseparable. To enjoy, one has to control, and therefore one will do anything to control, and so they can enjoy. So when that control becomes out of hand, and one simply doesn't see any limit to how much they want to control, Then you have what you have today, what the world is on fire with so many conquests. And then if you study it, and you'll see there's political tension everywhere, social tension, political tension. What is the other tension? Ethnic tension. One type of ethnic group doesn't like another type of ethnic group. They create that person as their enemy and they fight. Even the people who don't even fight, because they're living with the opposite people that their countries are fighting with. They develop a hatred towards each other. And so this is the material world. Enmity, envy, conflict, hostility, violence, cheating, lying, stealing, excessive amounts of greed. All because of one thing is missing: God consciousness. When there is God consciousness or Krishna consciousness, then even there will be a political boundaries, but those boundaries will, it's not, they welcome everyone as their brothers and sisters all around the world, and they rule according to their areas, but they share their resources, and the leaders are the well-wishers of the people. They may collect taxes, but they use the taxes to put back into the country for the benefit of the leaders by creating various amenities that are necessary for the society to develop and to live. That is the job of a leader. And we saw that when Maharaj Parikshit heard that one low-class man was beating the legs of a cow and a bull, he immediately took his sword to destroy the miscreant. And so he was concerned that even the animals within his control country, he was the ruler of the world at the time, were being exploited by this low-class person who was actually Kali personified. So wanting to show protection, he came out to protect the cow and the bull. But nowadays, even Prabhupada says, the countries make rules to protect their own citizens. But what about the animals that take birth in that country? Aren't they citizens also? The cows, the dogs, and various types of animals, they take birth in a particular area of the world. And they should be given rights just like the citizens give rights to live, because they are also children of God, although they live in different bodies still, but they exploit the animals, kill the animals, and create more havoc. So this is the effects of Kali Yuga. So here we are finding this age of Kali Yuga, and there's always going to be conflicts between these powerful and very avaricious kings, leaders. They call them presidents. They call them, heads of state. But their job is simply exploitation, more and more. It's been known that there was in the area of Nepal, the country of Nepal, there was a king who was a Krishna conscious king. His name was King Devendra. And he ruled Nepal for many, many generations, more than 25 years. And the country was Vaishnava. Nepal is still to some degree Vaishnava. But he died about 20 years ago or more, maybe even more than that. And since then, everything has gravitated down because the rulers nowadays, they're not trained, and they only know how to collect taxes and squeeze the people for more and more. So you'll see that in every country of the world, there'll be taxation, there'll be scarcities of certain types of food. That's happening already now. And the taxation will only increase. Srimad Bhagavatam. And this Bhagavatam is prophecy. And out of all of the 12 cantos of Bhagavatam, the 12th canto is called prophecy. It is showing us what will be the future in this age of Kali, which is somewhat indicated by the present. And Bhagavatam says that there will be a shortage of foodstuffs. There will be no milk, no rice, no wheat. And after some time, there will be, because people are not performing sacrifices anymore, there will be no rains. Without rains, there can be no agriculture. So people will be squeezed by the shortages created by nature due to lack of God consciousness. And at the same time, the political leaders will put so much pressure on the people, squeezing them for more and more taxes. People will become frustrated, leave their homes, go to the forest, and live like animals in the forest just to survive. This is prophesied in the age of Kali. So we're getting a little indication of it is now. So Mother Earth is she's concerned. At the same time, she's laughing. These kings are trying to conquer me. What will they conquer? They will be destroyed in due course of time. Don't they know that the bodies they have are perishable and subject to death at any moment? So, therefore, until we take up the principles of Dharma, or Dharma means that which is the essence of life. There are many kinds of Dharma, just like the Dharma means essence. So if you say the Dharma of salt, then what is the Dharma of salt? It has a certain taste. The Dharma of sugar is sweetness. The Dharma of fire is heat and light. The Dharma of chili is pungent. And the Dharma of the living entity is Sanatan Dharma, or eternal Dharma, which is engaging in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Dharma is being replaced by adharma in the form of sense gratification based on greed for more and more exploitation of the earth. And we find more and more tensions in the world. The only solution is Krishna consciousness. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come, and you'll see if you stay with the rest of this chapter, you'll see how the solution to all of these problems is also introduced in this chapter itself starting from the middle of the chapter onward. There are many nectarian verses which describe how the Lord will bring back the earth to Dharma. So this is because the Lord becomes involved when irreligion becomes too strong. So that involvement means to spread his message everywhere in the form of devotional service to himself, Sanatan Dharma, as taught in the scriptures as Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and others. So, so right now we are harassed by our political leaders, and they're not qualified to do anything. Many of them are so stupid they can't even remember their speeches. Sometimes the speech is given by a political leader, and he has to read the speech because he can't remember what to say. We had one incident here in the United States of America that the president, even though they posted the speech in front of him on a screen so he could read it while he was talking, he forgot to look at the screen and couldn't think of what he was saying. That was shown in public. He became the laughing stock of everyone. So we have such leaders who are, they can't even write their name. And because they're avaricious for power, they somehow or other get the position of leadership. So this is the pitiable situation in Kali Yuga. So in a devotional community, therefore, those who are leaders have to be exemplary in their qualities and characteristics. And they have to lead the people towards Krishna in devotional service and show by example what it means to be a perfect devotee. So we have leadership in all levels of society, even within Krishna consciousness. So leadership means exemplary qualities, character, and activities which are conducive to the service of God and to people in general. Okay, so here we're getting a little insight of this very difficult situation which is going on in the world today, and it will increase as these leaders in the world become more and more powerful by their armaments, by their political intrigue. So this is the nature of. So therefore, the only solution is Krishna consciousness, because these people don't change, and only when character changes, then activity changes. Just like people go to jail and they get punished in jail, they come out and they do the same thing again, wind up going back to jail again. Punishment doesn't work to change people. People have to be educated in the goal of life and the qualities that it takes in order to achieve the goal of life, which is the quality of the mode of goodness. And the first quality is mentioned, kindness to all living beings. So if a leader is not kind to those he leads, he is already disqualified from leadership. Okay, so these are things we can look at and see. As you stay with the 12th canto, you'll see how it's predicting the future in this age of Kali. And also giving examples of the present situation. Okay. So
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Yes.
That's the bottom line.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you for such wonderful class. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments, realizations, you can please go ahead. And please turn on your cameras if possible. Thank you so much. Maharaj, this is this is very such an important topic today. So how Mother Earth is suffering, and all these leaders are working on this planet to still steal everything, and their own satisfying their own senses and misleading people, general public. So all these scenarios looks very scary. But yeah, recently I was hearing to the lecture of Bhagavatam, the first canto, third chapter, where Kalki is going to appear at the end of Kali Yuga and all that. So I was like a little scared, like, so this is only 10,000 years is the Swarna Yuga, golden age, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Harinam Sankirtan is going on, and after that it is going to deteriorate still, and we see many effects of Kali Yuga. So that was very scary. And yeah, now also we are listening to this 12th canto series. So yes, Guru Maharaj, yeah. So this is very scary when we think about it.
When we can learn from what you just said is that it's our duty to finish this life up in Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead.
Yeah.
In other words, don't risk coming back again in another life and also continue to be victimized by Kali Yuga. Ultimately make the solution of life, which is taktva deham purna janmani naiti mameti surjana, to return back to the spiritual world. That is the actual goal of human form of life. So one should become serious in order and keep one's mind focused on the goal that I want to be fully Krishna conscious. And whatever I have to do to become fully Krishna conscious should be my priority in life.
Yes, Maharaj, yeah. Yes, definitely. Definitely, that should be our goal. Yeah, just only 5,000 years it's passed, and it's very scary but after that, so if we come back again, how scary it will be, how bad it will be.
Yeah, Prabhupada talks a lot about this in many of his lectures. He said there will be no food grains, no milk, no wheat, no rice, and then there'll be in the weathers, there'll be lack of rain if we're no agriculture. Because anan bhavanti bhutani parjanya amasambhavan. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, when sacrifice is performed, rains come, and when rains come, they fertilize the fields, and then grains are grown and people have food. But when sacrifice is stopped, and then there will be a shortage due to lack of rain. That's in the Gita. It's in the 3rd chapter, verse number 10, I think, 3:10. So Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, especially Bhagavatam, contains all subject matters: politics, sociology, chemistry, architecture, ecology, science, mathematics. Everything is there in Bhagavatam, because it's a holistic presentation of the nature of life and how to live life by focusing on the essence of life, go back home, back to Godhead, the process of pure devotional service. Okay. Do we have any questions from the devotees? Comments? This is a type of discussion that may inspire comments, maybe not so many questions.
Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Srimati. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, your class today is very, very thought-provoking, because we can see all around us how much Kali Yuga is infecting in everyone. Even in our devotional circles, we see that we are also infected by the spirit of Kali if we are not careful. And when that continues without our knowledge, we continue to make senses, or we continue to behave in ways which are not Vaishnava. And if leadership is like that, causes even more trouble for devotees. So how we can improve as a society, especially the leaders of our society, so that they become examples for us to follow, instead of us having to, worry about where the leadership is taking us?
Well, I wouldn't say the leadership is bad. I'd say it does need some improvement, because each person should be thinking as a leader how to improve in leading others, both in character and in activities. So, I mean, don't paint a gloomy picture. It's not like that. There are anomalies, there are deviations, but this is Kali Yuga, and these things will go on everywhere, even in religious societies. But the most important thing is that we need to train devotees from the very beginning in the science of bhakti and teach character, qualities, behavior. All of these things are essential. But you see in the history of religious movements, if you study that every major religious movement has been infiltrated by demons. And these demoniac persons take the positions of leaderships in some of these societies, and they work to promote their own agenda. The Prabhupada said, there is a thing called Kali Chela. Kali Chela. Chela means disciple of Kali. Tilak, Mala, dressed in dhoti, but he's working for Kali. So that happens because look what happened to Christianity. Christianity also got waylaid and got compromised in many places. And so there's always an attack by externally and internally by Kali's forces. So therefore, if we keep the principles very strong, following strictly the 4 regulative principles, chanting our 16 rounds, and leading people according to how leadership should go on. There's a nice book that's just been released by one devotee. He's in Chaupati. It's called Leadership. The book is called Leadership. It's a nice book. It's quite thick and it's got a lot of information. And many of the leaders who are actual leaders in the real sense have endorsed this book as a book of study and understanding for those who are taking. So we're always trying to improve on all levels, whether it's leadership, those somewhere in the middle, or those who are first beginning. So education is the most important thing. We need to educate devotees. And if you're not educated in the science of bhakti, then people will introduce their own ideas, and other persons will have ill intentions and try to move their influences in areas of their own. So Prabhupada said, the poison is personal interest. He summed it up in one thing. He said, the poison is personal motivation. So if we have personal motivation, then we're actually not in a position to lead or even practice Krishna consciousness. The idea is we have to keep Krishna's interest, the spiritual master's interest, as our interest. And everything works around that. It's just like when you have a center and everyone is working to the center, towards the center, then you have synergy and you have much accomplishment. Just like you have a wheel, a big wheel with a rim on the outside, and you have spokes connecting to the hub in the middle of the wheel. So without the hub, the spokes are not connected, and there's no stability in the wheel. So the hub is devotion to Krishna, devotion, following the instructions of Krishna and the spiritual master. As these remain foremost in everyone's life, not only leaders, but everyone, then the society will grow and Dharma will increase. There's an old saying, if you protect Dharma, Dharma will protect you. Dharma Rakshisa, I forgot how it goes. If you protect Dharma, Dharma will protect you. So we have to understand what is religious principles, follow that, and also preach that. The books are there. The words of the spiritual masters are there. The words of the acharyas are there. So our society is not perfect, but we have the perfect formula, that's for sure. That we can say we have the perfect formula, but we need to work to increase the quality of perfection in different areas. So that's there because of the influence of Kali. Kali is trying to infiltrate and trying to abort anything of any beneficial quality in this age. Kali's program is to propagate sinful activities in the name of progress in the world. This is Kali's age. It's his age.
Thank you for pointing out that the process is perfect and pure, and our application of it should be made better so that we can improve. Yes, that is very important to remember. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. We can't simply blame the leadership. We have to also blame ourselves and try to increase the quality of our own devotional service. We should work on ourselves. At the same time, educate, have programs for education on all levels, both for leadership and anyone in between. Education has to be there. And the books are the sources of the knowledge by which we educate. Prabhupada's books. That's why Prabhupada said, my books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years. Whatever we need to know is in Prabhupada's books, especially Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes, Maharaj, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Maharaj, when you are talking about leaders, so does this apply to small, like any position, like the small leaders or the big leaders in the congregation, like that, like the top leaders? So, because I see here a lot of Grihastha leaders are there, and they are also struggling to keep up the leadership and also motivate others in the congregation or in the community. So they face a lot of challenges too, because working material things and kids and everything. So
mothers are leaders, fathers are leaders, teachers are leaders, gurus are leaders. People who have responsible posts in any sphere of life have some leadership position. Anyone who is influencing others, in one sense, is a leader. Just like Prabhupada said, well, it's mentioned that everyone has influence. So if you're Krishna conscious, even if you're not a leader, you're influencing others to become Krishna conscious. If you're Maya conscious, no matter what position you have, you will influence, your influence will affect others. Everyone has influence. But yeah, any position. And speaking about leadership, yeah. And Prabhupada did a lot, spoke a lot on leadership, so much. And a lot of this information has been studied and presented in this book recently by this one devotee. I have the book, but it's not with me. I can't even remember the name of the book, but it centers around leadership. Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj endorsed this book as a must-read for everyone in the position of leadership. It's a great book. Tomorrow, I won't be able to get back to that book until I return to Mumbai, which will be in another 5 days. So by Saturday, I'll be able to give you the name of that book. Sorry for the delay.
no problem. So, yeah, thank you so much. And Yeah, so suppose, Maharaj, if you want to not to be in the leadership position, sorry, my voice. If we don't want to be in the leadership position and always assist others, is that okay, Maharaj?
Yeah. There's leaders and there's followers.
Yeah. Because not everyone will be interested into taking the leadership roles or becoming a leader, and they don't have that much capacity to do that. So
Majority of the people are followers, and leaders are less in number.
yeah, thank you, Maharaj.
But the followers also have to learn how to follow.
Scarlett Mataji is asking, please forgive me, in some of countries, the leaders really have no conscience, and people in these countries have to fight for survival. They even have lost faith. What do they should do?
Well, you're talking about an immediate solution. People will struggle for what they're lacking. People need food, they'll try to get food. If people need shelter, they'll try to get shelter. People need justice, they'll work to get that. But these are all what we call stopgap measures. The solution is a God consciousness. That's the ultimate solution. A lot of times we work with the smaller achievements, which somehow or other overcomes the inebrities at the present situation, but it doesn't solve the problem. The problem is lack of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. Because God consciousness includes everything. So when people are God conscious, everything is there. And the earth also supplies. Just like there is one particular economist, Prabhupada mentions him. His name was Malthus, Thomas Malthus. He lived around the 1800s, middle of the 1800s. He came up with an idea that there's too many people on the earth. Therefore, in order to keep a balance of the earth's population, we have to have war, we have to have pestilence, we have to have disease in order to keep a balance of the earth's population. So many of the leaders today follow that program. They actually believe in it. But Prabhupada comments, he says the earth can provide 10 times of the population at the present. But because people are sinful and there's mismanagement of resources, there appears to be shortages and lack everywhere. There's always enough food, there's enough area, there's enough everything available. But because of the rulers are greedy, people are in shortages. So they overthrow their ruler, but they put somebody in who's just like the old ruler that was in there, and the same thing goes on. So education and God consciousness is the solution. Yeah, even today they have a program for reducing the population of the earth. They say there's too many people on the earth. And they're promoting their programs even today. Let's reduce the population, then everything will be nice. This is the present world leaders. They think like this. And they have infiltrated people's minds with this idea. Prabhupada's, you read the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when King Vena was the king, he was a vicious and demoniac king who was ruling the earth. And because he was in power, there were so many problems. So the Brahmanas tried to convert him. But he even pushed out the Brahmas, stopped all sacrifice, and considered himself to be the absolute ruler. He considered himself to be God himself. Brahmins were still powerful in those days, so they performed a yajna and killed him by their yajna. And out of the body of King Vena, two people came. One was a low-class man who was sent to an area of the world to live, and the other one was Prithu Maharaj, who became the new king of the world, who was actually a Shaktavesh avatar, because King Vena, his father, was Maharaj Agnidra, who was a saintly king. And therefore, from the body of King Vena came this saintly person who took over the rule of the earth. And when he took over the earth, he saw that the whole earth people were suffering for lack of resources. So he challenged the earth, called her. She came, he performed sacrifices with the help of the earth, and gradually all of the resources started to come back. So when you have despotic and demoniac leadership, you're going to have problems and shortage. When you have saintly rule, you're going to have prosperity. That's the history. Just study the fourth canto. You can see the whole story of the appearance of Maharaj Prithu. And Prabhupada comments on that he talks about this theory, this bogus theory that there's too many people on the earth and the earth cannot supply. Prabhupada said that's not, the earth is the agent for God's supply. And she is like mother. She can supply not 8 billion people, but 80 billion people. Even if there's 80 billion people on the earth, she can supply. But people are sinful, irreligious, and vicious. And therefore, there's always limitations in resources. But that's not so much the problem today. The problem today is not so much a lack of resources, it's a lack of, it's the leadership who are hoarding all the resources. And people are not getting it. The rich are super rich, and the poor are they're suffering. 1% of the population controls 99% of the resources. Greed. Greed is an indication of the mode of ignorance. Whenever there's greed, there is lust and all kinds of bad qualities. Greed, greed, greed. Greed is a very debilitating quality that destroys all good character. Want more food, more money, more sex, more control, more. It's a disease. It's like an addiction, like a person gets addicted to alcohol and all they can think about is getting more alcohol. They don't care about anything else. So a person who is greedy wants to fulfill that greed, but they can never fulfill it, so they just expand it. And if they have power, they exploit others for their own greed. That's why it says, for those of you who study more intricately, 87% of the natural resources in today's world are owned by 3 corporations. That is a fact. And I won't mention those 3 corporations, but this is a fact. So greed, 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 and everyone's suffering. There appears to be shortages, but there's no shortages. The earth is still supplying, but at the same time, the leaders are stealing it all from the south. No, it's not Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. These guys are just small compared to these corporations. These names you won't even recognize. You may have heard of them, but you don't recognize them. They're mega corporations.
Thank you, Maharaj. Sridevi Mataji, you want to ask anything?
So Guru Maharaj, I would like to know what is the role and responsibilities of leaders in a community of devotees?
To make sure the devotees get everything they need to practice Krishna consciousness. That means their education, resources that they need to live, and also a agency for solving problems also. Now, when problems occur within the body of devotees, there should be a bureau of a group of Brahmins which will intervene and solve the problems and give people what they need to continue on in life. There has to be jurisprudence there for punishment for those who are deviant, and there has to be education to uplift people. They have to have resources by which they can provide when needed, like that. The Prabhupada said the leaders should be very affectionate to those who lead, and those who lead should be very obedient to the leaders. The leaders are like kind parents, and the followers are like children. You want to use an analogy. If the leaders are avaricious, unkind, self-motivated, then they're not qualified to be leaders. Or not intelligent to know what it means to lead. And therefore, they might lead by material principles. Leading by material principles is incomplete. One has to lead by spiritual values, spiritual principles. Sometimes we see in our society that people want material gain through devotional service, and if they get that, they consider themselves to be successful. That's not really leadership. Leadership should also provide resources or avenues by which resources can be gained, but at the same time, they have to lead from the position of Dharma. So study the leadership of those who have gone before. The Bhagavatam and other scriptures teach what is actual leadership. And we've established many agencies within, just like we have the devotee care society, group of devotees who are responsible for giving amenities to others. So that's there. So we're trying to do things that will be beneficial for others. But if people are personally motivated by their own interests, that pollutes the whole thing. And of course, those who follow, as you said, most of the people are followers, not leaders. Well, they have to cooperate with the leaders in order for things to go on. Properly. So evaluate your leader, just like it says, before you take your spiritual master, you should observe your spiritual master for at least 1 year. and see if that's the person you want to surrender your life to. And the spiritual master has to observe his disciple, prospective disciple, to see if that person is up to the standard of practicing as a proper disciple. So therefore, we also have the mentorship system, by which it supports the guru system to help the guru in his work of helping his disciples. Everyone should understand the importance of this mentorship system. We started it about 2 years ago. It's still in its stages of development, and it still needs improvement, but most of the improvement that is needed is coming that people connect to this system and become part of the system and not remain distinct from the system. Now, if you're living in the United Kingdom, then they have their own system of mentorship, which is very strict and very efficient. But around the world, smaller systems of mentorship are being adopted according to the particular group of disciples and spiritual masters. So that will ensure more cooperation and more accountability between disciples and spiritual leaders. These are management schemes, but they're needed and necessary for such a complex organization as our society.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hari Hari.
Maharaj, I just remembered that I read Srila Prabhupada quote in December 27th. The business of leader, he must be himself always enthusiastic and inspire others to be always enthusiastic. Then he is real leader. Letter to Tridas, December 27, 1972.
Yeah. One has to be enthusiastic and inspire others to be enthusiastic. That means inspire others to take up devotional service. A devotee should be thinking, what service can I do? Or how can I improve my present service? How can I encourage other people to take up Krishna consciousness? Yeah, enthusiasm, Rupa Goswami says, is the first principle of bhakti. Enthusiasm, determination, patience, following the process, avoiding non-devotees, and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These are the 6 principles that are favorable for devotional service. Rupa Goswami, Nectar of Instructions, verse number 3.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Okay. Maharaj, there are no more questions, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Such a wonderful class and a nice discussion, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you, dear devotees. We'll meet again tomorrow. I'll end the class here, Maharaj, with your permission.
Yeah, tomorrow it'll be hosted by
Anasuya Mataji. Anasuya Mataji.
Yeah. Okay, and this chapter is really, really exciting chapter, so stay tuned.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you, dear devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Maharaj ki jai. Thank you.
Ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for your patience with all of us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Guru
much.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.